Hello Varlets. Today we are finally getting a much needed update to the game after a long time. The Bound by Duty patch releases today, and with it comes a bunch of new content and changes that we've been needing for a long time. To kick things off, we are getting a new Mortis Trials arena, the Theatre of Rectitude, which is inspired by the Gloriana snow map and its frozen Foundryplex. With this new Mortis Trials map, we are also getting a couple of new Indulgence archetypes which will expand the breadth of combat styles we can play with within the game mode. The first of which is the Emperor's Favoured, where we gain a stacking critical chance and damage buff that also boosts the effects that trigger on critical hits. The second is Goliath, which focuses on mobility and resilience, giving you immunity to suppression and stagger, as well as a stamina boost and crowd control capabilities. With the new Mortis Trials arena, we'll also be getting new memory echoes that further expand the NPC backstories and reveals more about the Morningstar's past. Speaking of a new map, we'll also be getting a new event with this update, Smuggled Munitions. In this event, we need to battle against the Mobian enemies that have gotten their grubby little hands on plasma weapons in low visibility conditions. This is where we'll be able to experience fighting the new Scab Plasma Gunner enemy that will blast you with superheated plasma from a distance. But the Mobian 6 aren't the only ones getting some new weapons to play with this patch. In this update, we are getting some additions to our arsenal, with the centerpiece being the Veterans exclusive Power Falchion. Alongside this, we get a couple of new weapon marks for the Bolt Pistol and Bolt Gun, which are more focused on explosive area damage. Now, a big piece of this update are the sweeping changes coming to our talent trees for Veterans, Psychers and Zealots. The TLDR of these changes is that many nodes are getting consolidated into base nodes, and player agency is improving with reworked and more open pathways that provide greater flexibility. As part of the consolidation of nodes, there are also new ones coming in. Here are some examples of the new nodes for Zealots and Psychers. I'm honestly really excited for the upcoming changes because it might just open up more builds to be viable in higher difficulties. I'll do a proper deep dive into just how impactful these changes actually are in a different video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be alerted as soon as that one drops. As part of the incoming talent changes, the Ogryn and the Arbites talent trees are seeing some balancing. Namely, nodes that provide very easy access to free damage are getting reined in a little. For example, the Ogryn's Batter, which applies bleed on melee attacks, is getting its light attack application reduced from 2 to 1. Soften Them Up's damage increase will also be toned down a little, and the damage boost from Valuable Distraction is also reduced. However, Ogryns are also getting some buffs as well, which also includes a buff to the Ogryn's baseline stamina regeneration, something I feel that they really need given how fast they run out of stamina when they're sprinting. Meanwhile, the Arbitrator's Remote Detonation Blitz, or the Dog Bomb, is losing a charge from 3 to 2, but it's getting a slightly lower cooldown in exchange. The key impact of this change is going to be how effective you are going to be able to stunlock and shove around monsters with your dog. Which is fair, I guess, since most of the time we outright bully the monster to death. Execution Order's damage boost will be toned down slightly, and the bleed stacks from Razorjaw Augment will also be reduced from 8 to 6. Lastly, the Arbitrator is also seeing a reduction to its base toughness. Like the Ogryn, the Arbitrator is also getting some buffs and having some of its underutilized talents improved, like Ruthless Efficiency, hoping to bring up its viability in more builds. I think at first glance, these balances are fair, especially for the Arbitrator, who we all knew was a little bit overtuned given how easy it had access to so many strong damage nodes, and was inherently very tanky as well. Next, as part of the update's overall balance changes, we're also getting some balance tuning done to our weapons. The Ogryn Power Maul is once again getting buffed, this time with a greater focus on making its weapon special much more powerful. The Hellball Las Guns are getting a rework to its ADS to improve its usability by adding new rear sights and realigning the aiming position. Not exactly a scope that we are all hoping for, but perhaps this will make the user experience with the weapon a little better. All chain weapons are getting a pretty nice buff in the form of a rework to its weapon special attack. If you are hitting a flesh-type enemy like unarmored enemies or unyielding enemies, the damage of your special attack will start high right off the bat and have its damage evenly distributed throughout the entire animation. If you are hitting armor-type enemies like Flag or Carapace, the damage will start low, but the final hit will deal much more damage, working as it is currently. Overall, these changes should make it feel much nicer to use the weapon special because you will be unstuck from an enemy as soon as it dies. On top of this rework, chain swords and chain axes are also getting some buffs to their power, giving these iconic weapons more fury to match their fame. Chain swords are getting improved damage, finesse modifiers, attack speed, and hitbox size. For the Mark IV, it will be getting a new heavy strike down attack to give you some options for single target damage. For the Mark XII Chain Axe, it's mostly getting quality of life improvements to its usability of its attacks and combo chains. This comes in the form of improving damage dealt to secondary enemies with the light relentless attacks, as well as giving it a minimum damage dealt to cleave targets. The push attack for this mark is gaining a lot more impact, providing users with a more powerful stagger to knock enemies around. A welcome surprise, which I did not expect to see here, are some changes for the Vigilant Autoguns. Some of you have probably forgotten that these class of weapons exist since they often struggle in content above damnation. But I'm glad to say that these changes address some of the core problems that these weapons suffer from, at least on paper. Its recoil is being reworked completely to be far more predictable and vertical. They are also removing any inaccuracies while ADS and reducing the weapon's sway. This means that the bullet will always go where the sight is pointing at. In addition to that, the Vigilant Autoguns are also seeing an increase to its base damage and a reduction to its finesse multipliers. This is to make it less reliant on scoring headshots to be effective. We'll see how good the Vigilant Autoguns are doing in this patch in another video too. Finally, the inevitable change everyone has been anticipating. The balance tuning to the Dueling Sword. Specifically, the Mark IV and the Mark II, both of which have the thrusting stab heavy one. At first pass of balance, Fat Shark has reduced its finesse multiplier as well as adjusted its armor damage multipliers. Honestly, this doesn't really come as a surprise, but we'll just have to see how significant these changes to the Dueling Sword will be once I've conducted my testing. In addition to that, Fat Shark has also made a change to its special attack, changing it from an instant stab to a parry and riposte move, allowing you to enter a parry stance which will automatically block and counter melee attacks. I don't know about you, but I have a feeling that the community might be 50-50 on this change. I kind of enjoyed using the special attack to weave staggers in between my heavies, but I'm also interested to see how this new weapon special will work in our games. To close this overview, Havoc will also be receiving a new modifier, Contaminated Stims, where we are going to be facing juiced up enemies reinforcing themselves with stims. Be careful out there. And lastly, everyone's favorite Rotten Armour will be returning as a Havoc Modifier. I can already see the glorious carnage of carapace and steel happening in the higher Havocs. With that, we've covered all the main juicy parts of the update. I know I didn't go into detail for the talent tree parts or the weapon changes themselves, but rest assured I'm working on a bunch of videos to bring you guys through what these changes actually mean and how it affects your gameplay. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Varlets.